Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Right now, get a free select tool when you buy the Craftsman V20 2-pack battery kit. Whether it's the backyard, the bathroom, or beyond, Craftsman has the tools to help you power through and get the project done right. Because DIYing is unpredictable, but your tools shouldn't be. Shop Craftsman at Lowe's today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Not only should Walters be your spot before and after every Nats game, but also Walters is an avenue for cheaper Nats tickets. When buying tickets to Nationals Park through the rest of the season, enter promo code WALTERS for 30% off.
And now the kick, here's the pitch. Swing and a drive hit well to right field. This is deep. Back goes Butler to the warning track, looking up, and it is caught. Goodbye! Bang! Zoom goes K-Bear Ruiz. Home run number 13.
Check on the runner, the lefty throws. And Vargas blasts one to deep left field. This has got a chance. Back toward the bullpen, and it is gone! Into the A's bullpen, a 3-run shot for Ildemaro Vargas.
And Jake Alu will lead off against him. Left-hander against the left-handed pitcher. Swinging a drive in the air to deep right. This is way back. This is going, and it is gone. Goodbye! Bang! Zoom goes Jake Alu. His first home run in the major leagues. And he adds to the lead. It's now the Nationals 8 and the A's 2.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Saturday, August 12th, 2023. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off for this installment of the pod, but I'm happy to be joined by the man who runs the Nats Chat podcast enterprise, Tim Shovers. And I'm happy to say that we have a comfortable Nationals victory to discuss. An 8-2 win over the Major League worst Oakland A's at Nationals Park on Friday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series. The Nats in this game actually trailed 2-0 after one inning, but the Nats then scored the game's final 8 runs. We, in the top of the 5th, did have a sell the team chant. That chant was not directed at the learners. No, that chant was directed at the managing partner of the A's, John Fisher, as both A's and Nats fans joined in on the chant, which was planned and has become a thing at A's games this season. If you have been following the ownership saga of the Oakland A's, you are familiar with this sell the team chant phenomenon. It was something, and it was actually a rather loud chant that got going at Nationals Park.
Sell the team! Sell the team! Sell the team! Sell the team!
Tim, you were at this game. Did you partake in the sell the team chant in the top of the 5th?
I did not, Al, but I will say my wife did. I told her about the cause, and she enjoyed it. She picked it up while speaking to a fan, one of the lead fans from Oakland, which we will toss to at the end of this episode, Al. I did get a Sell the Team green t-shirt, which is now I have for the rest of time. So I have my memento from the Oakland A's final days. Cool to see, though, Al. You saw fans wearing green. You know, they're easy to pick out, right? And the fans wearing green across the stadium stood up after the 4th inning. They were ready to go. And let's just say, you know, usually when 2 last-place teams play in August, there's not much to look forward to in the 5th inning. But tonight was the rare exception for that.
Yeah, and, you know, it was something that was actually kind of fun. Certainly from a national standpoint. You know, it's a weird deal because obviously it's not like the Oakland A's franchise is a big deal in the Washington, D.C. market, but the Nats and the A's over the years have had this like weird connection. The two franchises have made a lot of trades. I mean, you think back to like the Gio Gonzalez trade, the Sean Doolittle, Ryan Madsen trade. There have been a bunch of others as well. And we had what happened on Friday night. So the two teams may be separated by thousands of miles, but there is some kind of Kavorka that has existed over the years between the Nats and the A's. And listen, good for A's fans for doing what they are doing. I mean, we as Washington, D.C. fans are well aware of what bad ownership can do to a franchise. We just went through this with the football team. So all the power to you if you are an Oakland A's fan. Well, this was an interesting win for the Nats on Friday night. First of all, the Nats hit like crazy in this game. 8 runs, 12 hits, 5 walks, 3 home runs for the Nats. We'll get to the offense. But how about the Nats bullpen? And look, I suppose you have to couch everything in talking about this game with the A's are terrible. Again, major league worst team. The A's now for this season are 33 and 83. I mean, we talk about the Nats, you know, being a rebuilding team, being a last place team. The Nats with this win now are 51-66. That's not good, but that is miles better than 33-83. The bullpen for the Nats, of course, did not do so well in the team losing 3 or 4 games at the Philadelphia Phillies this week, but the bullpen on Friday night was leaned on a lot. This was a game that was started by Joan Adon. He ended up lasting for 3 innings, not for his pitching. Now, he did give up 2 runs in the top of the first, but he, after warming up for the top of the 4th, got pulled from the game. We did not know why. Davey Martinez, during his post-game session with reporters, revealed the reason why.
Cramps. I mean, his legs cramped up on him.
Leg cramping. And if that sounds familiar, that should sound familiar, because Joan Adon, during his post-game session with reporters after his last start, the start that has put him into this new 6-man rotation for the Nats, that outing in which he teased a perfect game, 5 2/3 perfect innings, ultimately 3 runs, 6 innings, and a 7-3 win at the Cincinnati Reds this past Saturday. Adon revealed that he, in the bottom of the 6th, when he lost the perfect game and lost the no-hitter, started cramping. So cramping is an issue right now for Joan Adon for whatever reason. But Tim, the Nats bullpen in this game on Friday night, unexpectedly was leaned on a lot and did a great job. 4 relievers combined for 6 scoreless innings. You had Cory Abbott, 1 1/3 scoreless innings. Robert Garcia, 1 2/3 perfect innings. Jose A. Ferrer, a scoreless top of the 7th. And Jordan Weems, 2 scoreless innings with 3 strikeouts. On a night on which the Nats hit, the bullpen, in a lot of ways, was the MVP of this game.
Definitely. Cory Abbott coming in on such short notice and keeping it together and getting his 4 outs, not giving up a run, was very crucial to sort of stem the tide a little bit. Even a bad team can beat up on a bullpen when all of a sudden the starter leaves. I know we've been talking about him a lot for the past few weeks, if not month, but I'm still not over this Jordan Weems thing and how well he's pitched, and he gets the final 2 innings of Friday night's victory. Jordan Weems, am I correct that it seemed like for a year and a half, he was like the 26th guy called up on doubleheaders, and when someone would get hurt and they would need an arm, and then they would need to call someone up for 2 days and then send them back to Rochester, it seemed like it was Jordan Weems or Cory Abbott. So now that Jordan Weems has become a legitimate member of this A bullpen, I have not yet taken for granted, and I will say, unfortunately, I'm sort of waiting for the other shoe to drop, but maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this is what Jordan Weems is like in 2023.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing in 2023. I mean, I don't think that this guarantees anything for 2024 or beyond. Look, this may not guarantee anything for, say, next month, but Weems has been really good lately. We've talked about this, and he deserves all of the flowers for the job that he's doing. Jordan Weems now this season, 30 games, 36 into 3rd innings, an ERA at 2.48, a whip of 1.05, and he's averaging more than a strikeout per inning, 40 strikeouts in those 36 into 3rd innings. But, you know, with this Nats bullpen, again, did not have a great series at the Phillies. That is true. And I think we're all sort of monitoring this with this idea of the bullpen was so bad not that long ago. This is not a bullpen that is like overflowing with established, well-regarded names. And so you are kind of waiting for the bullpen carriage to turn back into a pumpkin. But, you know, at the same time, you have to praise this thing for what it's doing, because the overall body of work for weeks now, okay, this isn't like a cute little, you know, multi-day run anymore. For weeks now has been so much better than where this bullpen was. And I really do give it credit for what happened in this game, because, you know, it's one thing when you kind of go into a game, you know, maybe a team is planning to go with a tandem start or a bullpen game, or you have a starter who you know is probably not going to last for long. Not that people were anticipating Joan Adon tossing a complete game, but when your starter is warming up for the top of the 4th and then gets yanked because of this leg cramping, and the bullpen comes in and it's 1-0 after another, that's a good job, even against a team like the A's. Like, yes, the A's are putrid, but really nice work by this Nats bullpen and by all 4 guys. It wasn't like 1 or 2. It was all 4 in this game who came through.
Yeah, it was just a really efficient victory from them ever since called into service. And you mentioned that top of the 4th, Al. In case you weren't watching the game in real time tonight, not only did the inning begin with a long delay because Adon cramped up while warming up, so then Cory Abbott had to become totally fresh out of the bullpen on the mound. But then a few pitches later, Keibert Ruiz took a ball to, I have a feeling I know where that foul ball ended up. And if you remember last year, basically his season ended prematurely because of it. And I know he had to go to the hospital for a similar sort of play. So I didn't know if he'd be able to bounce back or not. And Abbott Ruiz was able to. But that was a very long top of the fourth. Rarely do you see both members of the battery go down.
Yeah, that was a bad fourth inning for the Nats battery. Of that, there is no doubt. But Abbott ended up having a really nice game offensively. And when it comes to Joan Adon, I mean, there really isn't that much to evaluate. Like I said, 2 runs in 3 innings. He gave up the 2 runs in the top of the first, gave up a 1-out first pitch single by J.J. Bleday, issued a 1-out walk of Zach Geloff, who went to the University of Virginia. Adon issued a 2-out wild pitch, advancing Bleday to third and Geloff to second. And then Adon gave up a 2-out 2-run single by Jordan Diaz to left center field for a 2-0 A's lead. But that was it. 2 runs allowed over the entirety of the game by Nats pitching. Hey, are you a law firm partner stuck on an underperforming team while the rest of the competitors are spending big and winning big? Well, unlike Mackenzie Gore and Abbott Ruiz, you have options. You don't have to stay on your 60-win team. Nats Chat sponsor Mason Kalfas and his team specialize in placing partners and associates at medium-sized and large law firms in Washington, D.C. and across the country. Mason Kalfas has recruiters in 6 states and has placed lawyers in more than half of the 100 largest law firms in the United States. While you may be reading doom and gloom from the legal press, many practices are red hot: antitrust, IP litigation, white-collar litigation, finance and direct lending, and healthcare. Because you are not under a CBA or team control for 6 years. In fact, staying at a firm too long is often a recipe for being underpaid. Explore your options today with Mason Kalfas. Call Mason today at 202-486-3535. That number again, 202-486-3535.
Hey, Nats Chat listeners, if you want to see Dylan Cruz play in the minors, you probably will be able to get a ticket, no problem. But there are plenty of other events where it isn't so simple. And when that happens, make sure to check out the Game Time app. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you will know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code NATSCHAT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code NATSCHAT for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about Factor. We on the Nats Chat podcast talk all the time about who is and will be a factor for the Nats. Well, the factor that I want to tell you about is as good as any top-notch prospect. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, and it can help you fuel up fast with flavorful and nutritious ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track reaching your goals. With Factor, you skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping and the prepping and the cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality that you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all that you have to do is heat up and enjoy. Treat yourself to 34-plus weekly restaurant-quality options like bruschetta shrimp risotto, green goddess chicken, and grilled steakhouse filet mignon. Again, ready in just 2 minutes. Go to factormeals.com/NatsChat50 and use the promo code NatsChat50 to get 50% off. That's factormeals.com/NatsChat50 and use that code NatsChat50 to get 50% off.
Quick Dylan Cruz update from Friday night. He went 1 for 5 while hitting in the second spot for the Fred Nats as they're on the road at Lynchburg. A 7-6 loss in 10 innings. Now back to Al.
Ruiz doing a little dancing off third. Here's the pitch. Swing and a line drive past the first baseman Brown. A base hit into right field. Scoring from third, Ruiz. Rounding second. Heading for third is Dominic Smith. He's there representing the tying run. Ildemaro Vargas has the Nationals on the board, driving in their first run of the game. His 21st run batted into the year. And it's now Oakland 2 and Washington 1.
The Nats in this 8-2 win over the A's on Friday night did hit really well. Again, A's are bad, so you got to keep sort of reminding yourself of that. But this was a game in which a lot of guys got in on the act. And, the recent trend had been maybe the upper half of the Nats lineup hit, but the bottom half really wasn't shouldering its load. Well, in this game, everyone contributed, including Ildemaro Vargas. Tim, I got to tell you, I have very mixed feelings about what we're seeing right now because rebuilding team post the trade deadline, I really don't have that much of an appetite to be watching Ildemaro Vargas as the every game third baseman. And that's what he is right now. Davey Martinez, game in, game out, is putting Ildemaro Vargas as a starting third baseman. But you know what? He has been very good lately. He has started to homer, and he homered again in this game on Friday night. So, you can only complain so much about this. The guy is producing. He was the Nats starting third baseman and number 6 batter, 2 for 4 with a 3-run homer and an RBI single, a 4-ribby night for Ildemaro Vargas. He and the Nats 2-run second had an RBI single into right field to cut the Nats deficit to 2-1. And Vargas in the Nats 3-run 7th had a 2-out, 3-run homer to left field for a 7-2 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 407 feet per StatCast. We have Ildemaro Vargas right now displaying 400-plus foot home run power. I don't know that many expected that.
Yeah, an interesting pregame, Al. I asked Davey Martinez if by default his plan is to every day have Vargas at third and Alu at second, which seems to be the case.
For right now, but we might do some other things here, but for right now, we'll keep it like that.
So basically, Nats fans, expect that to be the lineup day to day. There will obviously be alterations here and there. But Vargas taking advantage of it, ties a career high for RBIs. I still haven't made up my opinion of how I feel about him playing third over Alu. I mean, because so far, small sample size, but Alu is hitting. So to just dismiss Alu's chances at the big leagues, to me, would seem premature. As great as Ildemaro's doing, my overall concern is, why isn't Alu at third base, especially considering we all expect Luis Garcia to come up at some point this year, correct? So, Al, can you break down for me where the latest is with third base? Because I feel like I'm kind of missing the big picture here.
Well, I think if Garcia had not been demoted to AAA Syracuse, Garcia would be at second and Alu would be at third. At least that certainly is what things should be if Garcia isn't demoted. But of course he was. And so, you have this situation where Alu is pretty much the everyday second baseman at this point, although we have seen a little bit of Michael Chavis. And, there isn't that obvious guy to have at third base over Ildemaro Vargas. Like I said, I'm not in love with this idea of Vargas as the every game third baseman, but if not him, who? And, some people have said, well, what about Carter Kieboom? Well, Carter Kieboom just came back from yet another injury and, hasn't exactly been knocking down the door in terms of what he has been doing to warrant being brought back up to the majors to get another look at third base. And, the truth of Carter Kieboom is this. He is now way down the organizational ladder in terms of perception. Like, this is not a guy who gets talked about. This is not a guy who gets brought up. And I would not hold your breath on Carter Kieboom being brought back up to the majors this season. Now, he might, okay? And honestly, I'd like to see it, but I don't know that you can sit here and stand on the table for him with the way that his last few years have gone. So, hopefully Garcia is back up sooner rather than later and ends his season strong as the every game second baseman. And we do see Jake Alu at third base. But you're right, Jake Alu has hit. It feels like every game he does something from a run-producing standpoint. And sure enough, Jake Alu on Friday night as the Nats starting second baseman and number 8 batter, 1 for 3 with a solo homer and an RBI sac fly. He in the 1-run fourth had a 1-out RBI sac fly for a 3-2 Nats lead. And Alu in the Nats 1-run 8th, a leadoff first pitch home run to right field for an 8-2 Nats lead, 419 feet per StatCast, his first career major league regular season home run. So Jake Alu is producing. We know that that's what got him to the majors, his ability to hit, and he has hit. I mean, you said it's small sample size. You almost have to keep saying that, right? But 14 games, Jake Alu is produced some big hits. He's got 7 RBI over the 14 games. Now, his OPS over the 14 games is only 573, so it feels like that number should be higher. But yeah, he has come through in a number of run-scoring spots for the Nats, and he obviously delivered on multiple occasions on Friday night in terms of driving in some runs.
Yes, so love the home run. I also enjoyed the tweet from the team, Jake and Rake. I want to circle back to the point you made. You brought up Kieboom. My point is, why can't Alu play third base today and someone else plays second, whether it be Vargas or whatnot, and you play the long game with the third base. So, like, basically, why not just today flip Vargas and Alu until Garcia comes back up?
What would be the reason for that? Like, Alu was playing, so you just want to see him at third?
Yeah, I would say, why not have Alu at third, which is his primary position, when you theoretically still have second base earmarked for Garcia, and third base is open, so why not go with someone who might be a 2024, 2025 option? I'm aware of Brady House, but still, it could be a little bit before Brady House gets called up.
I'd like to know internally, do they see Alu at the major league level as a third baseman? Do they like him more at second base? Is that why we're maybe seeing what you just outlined? But yeah, you could do that. I mean, I'm not against what you're suggesting there. I guess to me, it's more important that Alu is batting. Like, I want to see him playing, whether it's at second or third. Both are important defensive positions. So I'm not too bothered by that, although I understand what you're saying in saying that. I think what has happened with Luis Garcia here really disrupted some things, because the plan was never to demote him this late in the season to the minors. I mean, that was something that I think took a lot of people by surprise. And so I really do hope we do see Garcia back up at some point, but, you know, he has to demonstrate improvement both on the field and off the field in order for us to see that. But listen, as long as Alu is playing, I'm okay, and he's hitting, and that's good. And, you know, long term, we don't know where he fits in, but, you know, you don't have to know that. Not everything has to fit into a perfect little hole here. If a guy is producing, a team will find ways to utilize the guy, and Alu right now is doing some nice things as a hitter. So on Friday night, Vargas homered, Alu homered, and Keibert Ruiz homered. Keibert Ruiz has gotten going offensively here lately. That has been good to see. Keibert on Friday night as an starting catcher and number 4 batter, 2 for 4 with a solo homer, a single, and a walk. Keibert was an igniter in this game. He began the Nats 2-run second with a great plate appearance. He drew a leadoff 8-pitch walk to conclude a plate appearance in which he was down at 1.12. Then Keibert in the Nats 1-run fifth had a 2-out full count solo homer to right field for a 4-2 Nats lead. He in the Nats 3-run seventh had a 1-out single to center field. And so much of this came off what we just talked about. Top of the fourth, took a foul ball off somewhere. I thought it was off his left knee, but it may have been off his left something else. Who knows? But whatever the case, he stayed in the game and he came through. So I feel like this is kind of an underrated thing, because Keibert Ruiz, he got the 8-year extension. You know, he's not going anywhere anytime soon, at least we don't think. But I think it matters that this guy ends his season strong, finishes with some good offensive numbers, and you look at him at the end of the season as, yeah, that guy is our catcher for years to come. You know, off the 8-year extension, I don't want to just assume anything here. You know, it's not a big money extension. It's an 8-year, $50 million extension. And he does need to be the guy who he was traded to be. And that is, you know, not just a catcher, but the catcher. Like, the idea with Keibert Ruiz is for him to be, say, one of the top 10 or 12 catchers in the majors. And his offensive numbers, as of a few weeks ago, did not speak to him being one of the top 10 or 12 catchers in the majors, nor did his defensive numbers. Now, we know with the offensive numbers, there had been some bad luck involved there, but I'm happy to see him getting the offensive results here lately. He's had some good games. He had another one on Friday night.
I'm with you. Keibert Ruiz having a good final 2 months, I think, is really an important barometer for what sort of taste Nats fans should have in their mouth during the long off season in the wintertime. If Keibert Ruiz and CJ Abrams end the season well, then forget about wherever Luis Garcia is. And I'm expecting a bumpy landing to the end of the year here with Gore and Gray because of innings count. So the pitchers is a whole different category. But in terms of those, you know, cornerstone position players, if Abrams and Ruiz have a good final 2 months, that's good news. That's a good thing here. So I'm with you on that. Looking at his slugging lately, by the way, in August, which we're only at August 11th so far, but they've played basically every single day, and he's slugging over 576. So that's a good sign there. I agree that if you're just looking at a few things from the box score in these final few weeks here, one of the first things you should look at is Ruiz.
Yeah, Ruiz and Abrams doing well here lately has been very good. It's a funny deal. Earlier in the year, Gray and Gore were doing well. Abrams and Ruiz were not. And now here we are pretty deep into the season, and it's now Abrams and Ruiz doing well, and Gore and Gray aren't like, you know, plummeting, but they have come down a notch or two with what has happened with them here lately. Well, speaking of CJ Abrams, the streak sadly did end on Friday night. He went 1 for 4 with a single and a walk, but he got caught on an attempted steal of second base. So Abrams, of course, has been doing so well as the Nats every game starting shortstop and number one batter. He in the top of the first on Friday night, again, got on base, a leadoff first pitch single through the right side of the infield, but he did then get thrown out on an attempted steal of second base. He in the last game registered a 25th consecutive stolen base without being caught. That set a new record for most consecutive stolen bases without being caught by a Nats player since the franchise came to D.C. So it's funny how these things can work in sports. You break the record and then the streak ends. It was like, okay, he got the record. Now the streak can end. And sure enough, it did. But, Abrams had a good thing going there, and there's no reason that he can't have another streak now. He also had a very good plate appearance in the bottom of the eighth, a 1-out, 9-pitch walk to conclude a plate appearance in which he was down in the count at 1.12. So, like Keibert Ruiz, a lengthy, impressive walk in the game. And I tell you, I think that is something to be mindful of with C.J. Abrams and Keibert Ruiz. Not only are they generating hits, these guys are generating walks lately. And especially Keibert Ruiz, that was not something that he had been doing with any kind of frequency, going back a few years. But he has been better lately at drawing walks, and Abrams is getting on base too. It feels like every game Abrams is on base multiple times, which of course is exactly what you want from the number one guy in the lineup.
Yeah, looking here at his game totals this year, Abrams drew a total of 2 walks in the entire month of May, for example. Now, he wasn't hitting leadoff at that time, but still, that's clearly not enough walks. So you're right. Whatever it takes to get on base, it does seem like he's getting on base multiple times a game. I said it before when I hosted a few weeks ago, but I'm just going to say it again in case you missed that episode and you heard me about a month and a half ago here. I was wrong regarding C.J. Abrams and the leadoff spot. Whoever that was, whether it's Davey Martinez or Baseball Ops or Mike Rizzo, whoever made the call to put C.J. Abrams in the leadoff role, honestly might be the smartest move of 2023 in the Nationals organization. I'm so thrilled with this.
It has worked out beautifully, and it has had the effect of almost like precisely turning around C.J. Abrams' season. Now, he had been doing better prior to being elevated to the number one spot, but it's not like he had been doing better for like 6 weeks. He'd been doing better for I want to say 2 weeks maybe. Got bumped up to the number one spot. Him being bumped up, to me, it was more like a challenge than it was a reward because, again, he had been doing better, but not for long enough to where he was kicking and screaming, okay, you got to move this guy up in the order. This was more like, okay, you've been a little bit better here lately. I'm going to challenge you and see if you can rise to the occasion. And Abrams has risen to the occasion. He's done such a good job in that number one spot. I thought that this was interesting, too, with Davey Martinez's lineup on Friday night. The starting pitcher for the A's was Paul Blackburn, a righty. And yet Stone Garrett got the start in left field. Of course, the way that things have worked for so much of this season is that Stone Garrett starts against left-handed pitching, which he mashes. But Stone got the start against Paul Blackburn, a righty in this game, and did well, by the way. He is the number 7 batter, went 2 for 3 with an RBI single, another single, and a walk. But the other guy who we have been seeing in left field lately, Blake Rutherford, has really struggled since being called up from AAA Syracuse. Now, one Friday ago here, August 4th, so it's just a little more than a week ago now that he got called up. But, that's another thing to keep in mind going back to the Ildemaro Vargas, Jake Alu conversation. You could put Vargas in left field. That is something that we have seen, not his best spot, but something that you can do. So I would hope that you start to see, this loosening of the grip of Vargas on third base once Luis Garcia gets brought back up. But, Stone Garrett is another one of these guys, probably not a long-term fixture here, but maybe can be a piece and someone who does hit when he called upon. He's done a good job this season, and he had another good game here on Friday night.
I would say the number one reason he got the start is because of Blake Rutherford's struggles so far. You mentioned the righty-lefty matchups, and Davey alluded to it, kind of just wanted to give him a day. For Blake Rutherford, 0 for 16, that's a small sample size. However, it wouldn't take long for 0 for 16 to turn into 1 for 28. I'm rooting for Blake here because if this opportunity doesn't work out, he is not a highly heralded prospect, and usually what can happen to guys like that is when they get their opportunity and it doesn't happen the first time, they're sort of destined to 10 plus years of riding the buses. So if you're a Nats fan, you're just sort of rooting for someone this weekend, root for Blake Rutherford to get that hit there. But as you said, that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. If Rutherford does get moved back down because that doesn't work out and Davey doesn't want to put Stone Garrett in left field every day, then you might see Vargas move to left, which also could coincide with if Garcia comes back up in a week or two, then you move Alu across the diamond, and there you go.
We'll see. It will be really interesting to see when Luis Garcia gets called back up. If he gets called back up, we can't just assume that. You never know. A lot of the Luis Garcia thing was behind-the-scenes stuff. I mean, I think that's been made pretty clear. And so how is he doing with the behind-the-scenes stuff? We don't know. I mean, we all can look up his numbers at AAA Syracuse, but what about, the stuff about preparing for games and, working hard and taking his craft seriously? Whatever specifically the Nats wanted him to improve upon, is he improving upon those things? We just don't know. Game 2 of this series against the A's Saturday night at 7:05. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. And then you have Sunday afternoon's Game 3, 1:35. Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. So, by the way, with Adon, you start this first go-round with a 6-man rotation. I don't know that he's necessarily injured. Again, cramping isn't necessarily injury, but, it would be something if the 6-man rotation lasts for exactly one turn and then, one guy's already hurt, and so you have to abandon the 6-man rotation plans. But we shall see. All right, so Tim made mention of it earlier in the show. He was down at Nationals Park on Friday, had a chance to chat with a man named Paul Brunell, who has an interesting story. He grew up in Northwest D.C. in the 1970s, but he became an Oakland A's fan due to there being no major league team in the 1970s after the 1971 season. So what we're going to do for you is play for you Tim's conversation with Paul, as Paul was at Nationals Park on Friday night representing Oakland A's fans who right now have a lot to be upset about with the owner John Fisher and with what seems to be the imminent move of the Oakland A's franchise to Las Vegas. Before we say goodbye, we do have to send a salute to Washington, D.C. Little League. Tim, this was a heartbreaker, what happened on Friday.
Yeah, the boys from Northwest D.C. lost on a walk-off homer in extra innings to Media, Pennsylvania. That's a suburb just outside of Philadelphia. I will have to say, this was a really cool thing. Right as Davey Martinez's press conference ended, the second it ended, pregame, he asked PR, what's the score? Immediately got an update. Then they put the game on television in the Nats press room. So we watched in the bottom of the 6th. They play 6 innings in the Little League. The DC pitcher pitches way out of a jam, 2nd and 3rd with 1 out, 2 straight strikeouts. And Davey Martinez really enjoyed it. He was engaged. And you saw the pitcher for DC take a huge deep breath as he walked off the mound, which is a lot of fun to see. But just imagine if you're that pitcher, let's just say he's a Nats fan because he's growing up in DC. The Nats manager got to watch you work out of a jam in real time. I mean, how cool is that? So, tough loss, but an unforgettable moment for the boys, I'm sure.
Well, with the way the Nats bullpen has been at times this season, maybe Davey called up the kid after the game. Who the heck knows? Hey, we could use you as a fireman at some point. You never know. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. A salute to Tim Newmark for the Nats Chat podcast music. Check out timnewmark.com. So for Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast, and we'll leave you now with Tim's conversation with Oakland A's fan Paul Brunell.
1 out away from the championship by the Oakland A's. Fingers deals a comebacker. Fingers has it and throws to first. It is a madhouse here at the Oakland Coliseum. High up in the heavens, the rockets are going off. Down on the field, thousands of youngsters pouring out of the stands. The ball players battling for their lives to get back into the dressing room.
Honored and pleased to be joined by Paul Brunell, a lifelong Oakland Athletics fan, but someone who also grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, Northwest D.C. specifically. He's a Georgetown Day alum, but grew up in the 70s when the Washington Senators were gone. They had moved to Texas. So he is someone who grew up in this area without a team, chose the Athletics, and his team is currently in a quandary here today. Speaking to Paul outside of Walters, you know exactly where Walters is, just across from Nationals Park. Paul is wearing a green Cell shirt. The Cell shirts have been all over baseball this year, making tons of news, and they're now here in the capital city for the weekend. Paul, set for us, what is the goal for Oakland Athletic fans this weekend at Nationals Park?
So thank you. This is part of a grassroots movement on the part of a lot of Oakland A's fans going back decades. And we're obviously unhappy that Oakland A's ownership is attempting to move the team to Vegas. And there are a lot of misgivings about the current ownership, John Fisher especially. And so the whole sell movement is to try to get fans united, not just in Oakland, but in other ballparks, other fan bases, to chant, sell the team. And we want John Fisher to sell the Oakland A's to somebody who will keep the team in Oakland.
For those who won't be in attendance on Friday evening, walk through for everyone what exactly the sell chant will be in the top of the fifth.
So the reason why it's the fifth is to celebrate 55 years of the team being in Oakland. So after the first batter in the top of the fifth inning, which would be the A's at bat here, everyone's supposed to remain silent for the first batter, although that doesn't always happen. But after the first batter in the top of the fifth, then everybody, we would love for all Nats fans in every section possible with full-throatedness to chant, sell the team with us. We've been successful in getting that to happen in Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and also at the All-Star Game in Seattle.
Were you at the reverse boycott game earlier this summer that drew over 30,000 fans to Oakland to chant en masse to sell the team?
I was not, unfortunately, because I was in D.C. at the time, but most of my friends were, and it was wildly successful.
Let's get wonky here for a second. Let's just say that somehow, some way, that the team stays in Oakland. What is a realistic path towards getting public funding for a new baseball stadium in Oakland, California?
So the interesting part of that is that if you look at what Vegas has offered the A's, it's actually the same, if not maybe a little less, than what the Howard Terminal project in Oakland was going to be. So a lot of us are not really sure why that suddenly became a better option. So in terms of a plan, the city of Oakland seems to have already come up with a relatively decent plan for a proposal that was about 90% of the way there already.
Oakland has a very unique fan base. Explain for those unfamiliar with the team and its fans what makes it so unique.
So I know the misnomer is that Oakland A's fans don't show up for games. And if you look at the numbers, it's hard to argue that, except in reality, what you have to look at is what John Fisher's done to the organization, especially in the last 4 years. I mean, the 2019 Oakland A's, who were in the playoffs and sold out their playoff game, had Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Marcus Semien, and Sean Murphy on that team. And after that year, he just systematically dismantled the entire team, raised ticket prices, and threatened to move to Vegas. So, of course, fans are, especially the casual ones, are not going to show up.
Thanks, Paul, so much for your time, and enjoy your weekend here in D.C.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A's trying to sweep, but the Giants have certainly not made life easy for them tonight. It's a ground ball to the right side, speared by Phillips, flips to Eckersley,